Welcome to episode 1440 of The Sleeper and the Bust. I am Justin Mason, joined as always by Jason Collette. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, all right, man. This good Sunday. Actually been a really good weekend of baseball. Unless you were a fan sitting in Bishop Motor Speedway last night. What a clown show that was.
I didn't even see what happened there.
Dude, it rained like all day long. It was raining. And then they tried to get this game in, and they made it like 17 pitches and won. And then they were like, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and push it to tomorrow. It's like they had today open just in case, and they tried to play this game last night. Then, for those of you guys that remember game 5 of the Tampa Bay World Series, or game 4, when they had the lake on the infield in Philadelphia and they tried to still play that, it looked like that. And they were trying to play, and it was an absolute joke. And I felt so bad for the fans because, this is Bristol, Tennessee. There's not like there's a ton of lodging. People already paid stupid inflated prices for the tickets and the hotels. I was hoping to go home today, and now it's just like, okay, you can stay overnight, maybe, and it's a disaster. But hopefully the weather's better there today. It's great here in Charlotte. It wasn't so great yesterday here, so I'm guessing it was a little worse on the other side of the mountains there. But we'll see if they get the game on at 1 o'clock today there. But just a nightmare. But other than that, just great weekend of baseball. Some like the throwback night they had in Colorado with that crazy 16 to 15 game, and that was good. And just some good baseball going on. And it's kind of nice to be able to watch it. You can relate to this because your team is out of it. My team has played their way out of it. So now I'm just enjoying baseball and not trying to worry like, oh God, we lost this game. Who cares? Rays aren't going anywhere. Giants aren't going anywhere. Let's just enjoy some baseball.
See, and this was like the whole reason I didn't want to get excited about my team early on when they were hot, right? Like
same. I should have known better.
Your Giants are good. Your Giants are good. And I'm like, I don't really think they are good. And I don't like getting disappointed because I am disappointed now. Like, I started to buy in, and especially after the Devers trade. But they kind of showed themselves to be exactly who I thought they were. And we let them off the hook. So
coming into the season, I had my guys as an 85 win team at best. And then they started playing like a 90 something win team, and they sucked me in. And then here comes the end of June, and then the month of July was a disaster. And now they're playing like I thought they would.
Yeah. I felt the exact same way about my team, and they are doing what they're supposed to do, which is just hover around 500. So, all right, we've got a ton to talk about. We're not going to go through every single trade that happened during the trade deadline, just because we have too much to talk about because of the trade deadline. There's a lot of openings and FAAB pickups that were created by the trade deadline. So we will kind of inadvertently talk a lot of the trades that happened with the FAAB pickups that we're going to be discussing, but there's a lot of news in terms of injuries, and then a lot of stuff to talk about in terms of FAAB. So we're just going to dive into that. We'll start out with Jacob Mizrachi heading to the IL with a left tibia contusion. Are you holding on to him?
The thing that I don't understand is how did this happen? Like there should be a left tibia contusion, translation, shin bruise. And unless I missed him taking a liner off his shin bruise, or he kicked something in the dugout or the locker room, it almost seems like load management. I don't know how else to say it, but this came down this morning. Logan Henderson is now going to be there. They obviously have Tobias Myers and Chad Patrick that they can call up from Nashville to do this. This honestly seems like load management. So, I have a tough time holding on to them the rest of the way.
I think you have to, though, right? The upside is just too good, and he's been too good.
Correct.
So far this yeah, 33 and a third innings this year, 2.70 ERA, even better xERA at 2.24. An outrageous 36.5% strikeout rate this year. Yes, the homers have been a little bit of a problem. He's given up, the walks have been a little bit of a problem. He's given up a couple home runs more than maybe you'd like to see. But at the end of the day, Mizrachi's just been elite. I think you got to hold on to him until we get a timeline.
Yeah, hope so. Hopefully it's, they just backdated it a little bit just for workload management purposes. He is Last year, he threw 97 and a third. This year, he's at 96 and 2/3. So he's pretty much where he was. And if this could be a little bit of a reset to allow him not to go up too much higher, then maybe that's where they are. Because, progression wise, I'm looking at 71.1, 97.1. Now he's at 96.2. And with the velocity that he's working with, you obviously don't want him getting out there, because if Milwaukee has October aspirations, then you need to make sure that you are controlling this. And this, to me, when I first saw this is what I thought was workload management a bit.
And I mean, I think some people are going to be like, well, of course you hold on to Mizorowski, but we're going to have these conversations the rest of the way. You and I are going to have these conversations. I'm going to have these conversations with Paul on the pod, because there's less than 2 months left in the season. So if a guy is going to miss 4 weeks, right? An oblique injury typically, obviously this isn't an oblique injury, but
right.
An oblique injury is typically 4 to 6 weeks of recovery with potential for setbacks. Those guys are droppable now. It doesn't matter where you drafted them. You have to kind of consider how much time is left in the season at this point.
Well, I mean, it's like push up. Let's just stick with Milwaukee. This Jackson Churio situation, the hamstring, they're saying it's a little worse than they expected. There's a chance that he's out until September. You could be missing, that's like half of the remaining baseball, best case scenario, if he does come back and is able to pick up where he left off. If it's worse than that, then let's say we get to Labor Day weekend and all of a sudden they're like, he needs an extra week. And now you're like, okay, you're done with 3 weeks of baseball left. And you've tied up a bench spot in the formats where you have a 7-man. You've tied up that bench spot for 5 weeks. So you're right. And you absolutely have to have these internal conversations. Create an AI chatbot and talk to it if you want to. Have them talk it out of you. But it's just like you're expecting or anticipating things to happen the way you want it to happen. And if you've learned anything from this podcast over the years, players never come back the when we want them to. It's always later. And it's a conversation that has to be had. I have a 12-team NL league where I just lost Churio. That said, it's a keeper league. I don't have to add this conversation, but in some other leagues, I've already made some of these tougher cuts, and I looked at it and be like, yeah, I know I drafted this guy at this point, but if he's going to be out this long, goodbye. And it's the reason why I said on Isaac Paredes when he first went down, because we didn't know. Now it's obviously a super easy cut today. But at the first point, it was like I debated it, and I was like, let me see what the news is going to be. And I didn't really miss out on anything this past weekend, but he's absolutely Cutsville. Today, obviously, we don't even know if he's going to be ready to start the 2026 season at this point now.
Yeah, and I think that is something you just have to take into account. Even if the name value tells you, like, hey, I drafted this guy in the first round, like, I want to hold on to him. If you don't have a spot that's free, right, an extra spot on your IL to kind of stash someone, like, you should be moving on. You shouldn't be cutting someone else maybe on your IL that could be back sooner if you know this guy isn't going to be back anytime soon. With Churio, I'm probably holding for about a week. But, man, I was telling you this before. My Tout Wars team got absolutely destroyed this week. I, had the Mason Miller trade to San Diego, which puts my share of Robert Suarez in jeopardy as the closer. I lost Jackson Churio here, and then I lost. I finally made the trade with Alex Chamberlain for Acuna. I gave him Jacob deGrom and lost him. So all of a sudden, I'm sure other people are going through this on some of their teams. But
we absolutely. I was telling somebody in my home AL league, I have 25% of my 40-man roster on the IL, and we don't have injured spots. We have 40-man spots. I have 10 guys and $146 of salary on the IL.
Yeah, and then of course,
I'm still trying to get to second place. That's the crazy part. It's just like even a halfway decent health season, I'm in better spot. But yeah, I have $146 of salary and 10 guys on the IL.
And a lot of people lost their closers this week to the trade deadline, right?
Yep.
Like, if you lost, like a David Bednar or whoever is your closer that may have gotten traded to a non-closing situation, that has been brutal as well. We're going to talk about more of that here in a little bit, but let's stay with Milwaukee and talk about Oh wait, never mind. We're not staying with Milwaukee.
No, we were. Frelick had been pulled out of the game yesterday with knee soreness,
Okay.
but I just checked and he's in today's lineup. So if he's hitting leadoff today, then let's assume things are good. Because the only other situation, I mean, they don't have a lot of depth there in that situation because Milwaukee didn't make any big moves in that regard. So it's like pitching wise, yeah, they have Patrick and Tobias Myers down there, but this would have, they already called up Brandon Lockridge to replace Churio, and if Frelick would have gone down, I don't know what they would be doing.
Yeah, no, it's they're very thin, and they're going to be in a dogfight in that division. Currently, 2 games up on the Cubs, and the Reds tried to get better as well during the trade line, so they're not going away anytime soon either. Let's move over to a closing situation, a number of closing situations. We'll start with Seth Halverson, who has an elbow injury. They said this one does not look good. It sounds like it's probably Tommy John or something similar. So he's going to likely miss the rest of the season. Do we care who closes in Colorado?
Not really. I mean, it's more of, they just swept the Pirates, or they took 3 of 4. I forget exactly, but they won the series against Pittsburgh, and I think it's their first back-to-back winning series of the season. Let's say somebody's going to get 5 saves the rest of the way. So we're really talking to you NL only folks. I mean, Victor Vodnik, I would assume, has to be next man up in this situation because at least he has some experience. But you could also, maybe Jimmy Herget, maybe Jaden Hill. Jaden Hill got a win yesterday. I liked his stuff coming into the season and from what he did back in college as well. So maybe somebody gets 5 saves, but maybe he's doing a lot of heavy lifting here. So NL folks, take a dart, see what happens. Mixed folks, use the roster spot for strikeouts, wins, try to do something else rather than having a guy in there that may get 1 save opportunity a week.
Yeah, I just think there's so many different options that we're going to discuss today for guys you can go and pick up in most formats that you really shouldn't even worry yourself about Colorado. I just don't know that there's, I mean, even NL only, you're going to have, different options that have popped up. I just don't know if there's going to be a concrete guy, and if their team's even going to win enough where a concrete guy could move the needle for you without destroying your ratios. So I'm not super worried about Colorado, but I understand maybe some really, really deep leaguers might be. Robert Garcia hurt his scapula. They've diagnosed it, or they're characterizing it as a spasm, but the reports have been that it's likely he's going to hit the IL. Who do you think closes in Texas now?
So yeah, they downgraded and said it's a spasm, and they think it's okay. But we'll see. But they think it's okay. But that said, if he were to come out, and this is somebody that I looked at last week when I was trying to break down what would happen in St. Louis, but maybe Phil Maton. Phil Maton has good stuff. When I looked at his numbers last week heading into the trade deadline, anticipating that maybe he stays, like Ryan Helsley's going to go. Who's next up in St. Louis? Maton stood out because he had the best strikeout minus walk percentage at 21.1%, and then held opponents to a 212 batting average and had a 103 stuff plus. Like, these are all good enough things. And for Texas, if something's wrong with Garcia, then you look at what's left on the depth chart, and it is Sean Armstrong, who's had a chance or two. There's John Gray. If they really wanted to have some fun, they could try that route. But Phil Maton could end up being the guy to pick up some saves there. So I would take Phil Maton over any possible situation in Colorado. And I would also take him as the favorite here if you want to spec on this Robert Garcia thing being something more than just a spasm.
Yeah, I think Maton seems like the likely next guy up. Maybe you could see like a Sean Armstrong factor in at times, or they move to some sort of committee in Texas. But I think Maton seems like the most likely candidate if Robert Garcia is going to miss time. But we'll have to kind of wait and see over the course of the day if we get any more information. So keep an eye on that. Take a spec on Phil Maton in leagues, because I think he'll probably be much cheaper than a lot of the other guys that we're going to talk about later in the show. Let's move away from the closer situations. Like I said, we'll talk a ton of them at the end of the show. And we'll move right along to George Springer going to the 7-day concussion IL. Are you overly worried about this?
Not really. I don't think it'll be an issue. I just trying to look at playing time. You look at the way the roster's playing out right now. They get Dalton Varsho back coming off the IL. Varsho's defense is going to keep him in the lineup in center field every time they're facing a righty. Today they're facing a lefty. He's on the bench. And so when Springer comes back, you would have to assume it's like Nathan Lucas is playing against all righties, and he's sitting today against a lefty. And just trying to figure out what happens because they did add Ty France to the rotation, so he is now he's now in the area too, and that puts Miles Straw back into more of a platoon situation himself. So once Springer comes back, he goes up. But Joey Loperfido has been in the lineup every single day with things, and he's been hitting high in the lineup most of the time too. So it's crazy to me that Toronto's still doing. I know they haven't been playing that well of late, but the fact they were playing well with a lot of these guys overperforming, getting Varsho back will be a nice thing for them. But I still look at this team and I'm like, how is this first place team?
Yeah. I don't know how they're doing it, but it's been fun to watch this team get hot right at one of the best times you get hot at during the season. I'm not overly worried about this. I think there was hope that he would be able to even avoid the IL. I think they're playing it safe. You can never really know with concussions. Obviously, you can go to bed feeling good one night and then wake up the next day with concussion symptoms. So kind of got to monitor it. But I don't think you're dropping him. Springer's been pretty darn good this season, especially considering where you drafted him. So you just hold on to him for right now and hope that he's back in a week. Moving right along, we have Nolan Arenado to the IL with a shoulder strain. Are we just dropping Arenado if we had him anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, we had him recently because he was going to Colorado. He was playing a series in Colorado. I know in one league I grabbed him that week because homecoming and everything. And let's see. But at this point, yes. I mean, he really wasn't doing much to begin with. And now with this, next.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty easy drop here. He'd been terrible over the last month. I believe I saw somewhere he was hitting 171 over the last 30 days. So at this point, I don't think there's much left to be gleaned or taken from Nolan Arenado in fantasies. So let's talk about Miguel Vargas, who strained his oblique. I think it was last night, actually.
Yeah.
He's not yet on the IL, but again, we talked about this earlier. Obliques are typically a 4 to 6 week injury. We've got about 8 to 7 weeks left in the season at this point, pretty much. Are you holding on to him? I think you've got to drop him in all formats, right?
Yeah, this one sucks because at a minimum, like they pulled him just before the game. Obliques, as you say, tend to be a multiple week situation. Honestly, like easy expectations, he comes back in September, and I say this sucks because he's been a rather useful pickup for home runs and the way the White Sox lineup has been hitting. I would assume if he is to go to the IL, I mean, they haven't put him on it. They have today's lineup now, and both he and Chase Meidroth are both out of the lineup injured. Meidroth got hit on the hand, so it's like if maybe both of them go to the IL, and then you look at who benefits playing situation, potentially Brooks Baldwin benefits on that situation. They recently called up Corey Julks. They did make the trade for Curtis Mead. I would expect Curtis Mead to come up from AAA if one of those guys goes on the IL, and potentially maybe Brian Ramos while we're on the White Sox. My bad on like underselling Colson Montgomery. I don't know where the hell this is coming from. I know we talked about him a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, this guy has not been impressive. And even some of the stuff I'm reading right now is like, yeah, I think Jeff Zimmerman had something. It's like, nobody saw this. I don't know where this is coming from. But Colson Montgomery has been rather serviceable.
Yeah, I took a look at Montgomery when he had a big night the other night, and I was doing the roto write-up, so I wrote him up. The underlying numbers are not great on Montgomery from a contact profile, and everybody knows how much I love zone contact. 78% zone contact and an 18% swing strike rate are both abysmal. So I do think he is the guy we kind of discussed, which is, hey, there's some power and there's a little bit of speed in the profile, very little, but but at the end of the day, I do think that 26% strikeout rate is going to go through the roof at some point. You cannot swing and miss as much as he does and it not come back to haunt you. So I'm not buying into what Colson Montgomery is doing right now. And I think this is a perfect time to sell high if your league still allows trades.
And I would say this, the White Sox have been extremely aggressive at the plate. You know, I got to see them. I watched them in the series against the Rays, watched them with the Phillies. And I don't know what the hitting instruction is doing there, but those guys are not messing around. They're like, if I see a fastball, I'm swinging. They are not up there to walk. And they are taking their hacks at fastballs. Anything that is straight, they are going up there taking their hacks at it. And it was impressive to watch them do some of the work. I know at one point they had scored at least 4 runs in 8 of their first 10 games coming out of the break. I haven't tracked that stat here over the past 4 or 5 days, but that White Sox lineup has not been a pushover of late. But their depth's going to get exposed if they got to replace 2 regulars.
Yeah. Well, not that they were super deep to begin with, but it's a great time to stream against the White Sox, even better than it has been so far. Last guy kind of in the news is Luis Gil, who's going to be activated by the Yankees. Are you excited for Luis Gil? Are you picking him up in FAAB this week?
I'll get to watch him today. He's pitching against the Marlins, so you get an immediate like, hey, let's see what's here after this 2+ month layoff to see what's there. So sit back and watch and see what's there. He's going to go in the rotation because Marcus Stroman is no longer on the roster. So it opens up a spot in the rotation. Aaron Judge is supposed to be back Tuesday. I don't know how that, and I don't know if the news has changed about him and needing a DH when he comes back. So Stanton, if you've been using Stanton because he's been a regular cleanup hitter while Judge has been out, I don't know what's going to happen in that situation, but reports are saying that Judge should be back on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding was that Judge could not throw. And so, and there was talk, and the media even asked Stanton point blank, would you play the outfield? Stanton's like, I'll do whatever it takes to win, So I don't know if they're going to try Stanton out in the outfield to make kind of the roster crunch work if Judge does have to DH, but I would be really, really surprised if they put Aaron Judge out into the outfield with a torn UCL.
Yeah, I would be too. For me, it's a matter of where Stanton's going to play. And I mean, the Yankees already have monuments in the outfield, so why not put Stanton out there to begin with? But it's like you would have to put him in right field. And then you're like, okay, I've got to move Bellinger to left. And then what happens with Jason Dominguez or Trent Grisham? It's like there's this trickle down effect. It's like a shame they can't just throw a first baseman's glove on one of them and say, hey, go play first base. Ben Rice, it's been fun, but they've been using Ben Rice at the top of the lineup most of the time too. So I guess that's a nice problem to have. And I just bring it up because offensively, the run support wise should help if Judge can come back and do what Judge normally does. That helps offense support because like yesterday, they got shut out 2-0. They lost to 2 solo shots by Agustin Ramirez, who just continues to impress.
Yeah.
Just continues to impress.
As far as Gil goes, I wouldn't start him today. I mean, obviously, by the time this episode comes out, I don't think many people will have listened to this point before the game started. I don't like starting a guy off the IL, and he hasn't gone more than 4 1/3 in any of his rehab starts. I believe he looked pretty good in his most of his rehab starts. One rehab start he got absolute shellacked, but I'm going to be watching this game pretty carefully to see how he looks because I think he's going to be a guy that's very interesting in FAAB leagues where he's still available. Let's move into our FAAB section of things and start with Warming Bernabal, who is a rookie for the Rockies. It started off pretty darn hot. Is going to get a lot of playing time after their trades. Where are you at on Warming Bernabal?
I think the best comment that I saw was something Zimmerman wrote, and he basically said that Bernabel is Kymene Parising it, and that's about the best I could see. So it's like he had a hell of a first week.
Yeah.
And see 3 home runs, 6 runs scored, 8 RBIs, hit 500. And that sounds like Kyrene Paris. So it's how's the league going to adjust to this same type of story, because the on pace numbers are ridiculous. But when Jeff broke it down, he looked at it and said, here's what he was doing in AAA. Here's the part context. Here's everything. And this was a below average hitter. And so he's coming up here and just taking advantage of the situation that he's been given. So good for him. I just would not go crazy this weekend thinking this is the next Nolan Jones, Bretton Doyle. I don't know what else you would put in this, but it's like you kind of miss this. But I don't blame you, because looking at the AAA numbers, nothing really said, oh my God, this is going to be the guy that's going to move the needle in week 19 for fantasy managers.
Yeah, so I want to first really kind of clarify, Jeff's comments, because I don't think Jeff was talking about Bernabal being a power speed guy, right? There isn't a ton of power, there isn't a ton of speed in this profile. What he does do is make a lot of contact. He had a 90% zone contact in AAA this year, and that led to a 301, 336, 450 line with 8 home runs and 5 stolen bases and 316 plate appearances. He's more of an accumulator type. If he's playing every day, he can accumulate in Colorado and really, push maybe a 300 batting average. So if you're looking for batting average, I think he's going to play every day. I think he's going to hit, 290 or 300 with his contact profile in that park. But there really isn't a lot more to go with it than just that. I know he has 3 home runs already. There is not a ton of power in this bat overall. So I right now he's got a 536 ISO. The last 2 seasons in the minor leagues, and that's been mostly AA, he hasn't broken 135 ISO. So they're they all play their minor league games, Colorado, in these really, really offensively friendly parks. So
yep.
I'm not thinking he's going to be a world beater, but he could be a really nice source of batting average if that's what you're looking for. So
I'm looking at schedule. Rockies have the 3rd toughest remaining strength of schedule in baseball, but they also have 52 games left. So if I know we talked about this a few weeks ago. If you're looking at games played, they have 52 games remaining, which is right now anybody's anywhere from 49 to 53, with the Athletics being on the low end at 49 games, and there's some teams at 50, but the Rockies have 52. So there's still some things there, but they've got some series against the Cubs. They got a 3 against the Cubs, a 3 against the Jays, a 7 more against the Dodgers, 3 against the Astros, 7 more against the Padres in that pitching, and 3 against the Mariners. I haven't looked at home road on this. It's just they've got a lot of games left, but they got a lot of tough pitching to face too.
Yeah. Moving along, we have Tyler Locklear, who is part of a trade that sent him over to Arizona. He's going to be playing every day as their first baseman in Arizona with Josh Naylor gone. Are you picking up Tyler Locklear? Because he's a guy who's had some interest over the course of his early part of his career now.
I guess I would, just because of the everydayness of it. I would say, somewhat related to this, kudos for the Mariners getting out of this trade deadline and not having to trade Lazaro Montez to get Eugenio Suarez. That's, to me, it's like for them to get Suarez and not have to give up Montez and to give up this, good for them. Really nice move on their half. So the fact that Locklear is playing every day, yes, I'm just not terribly excited about what he's going to be able to do.
I'm interested to watch him. I mean, this is a guy who has a bit of power, but he has struggled with contact. But he's seemingly made improvements this year in that regard, and really over the course of the last 2 seasons in the minors, where he's really shown kind of a league average hit tool, and a guy with, a bit of pop and a league average hit tool, and playing every day could be really interesting in 15 team leagues or deeper. The problem is he going to get exposed more going up against major league pitching? And that is my concern with a guy like Locklear, because he was coming into kind of the last couple seasons as a prospect with one of the big question marks being, will he make enough contact to matter? And he doesn't have prodigious power. We're going to talk about a guy next who has prodigious power that is very, very interesting, and I probably would rather have. We've talked about him a lot on this show over the course of the last few years. But Locklear is a guy, I think, that could, because of his playing time situation, could accumulate, and if he can make league average power, that'll unlock, maybe above league average power there. Moving right along to the guy I was just mentioning, and that is Kobe Mayo, who, with all the trades in Baltimore, is going to be playing quite a bit here moving forward. Where are you at on Kobe Mayo?
Yeah, time to sink or swim. 150 career plate appearances, 3 home runs, and he's hitting 181. That's what he's had, but he's been up, down more than a kid's yo-yo. So now he's getting the opportunity to play every day. They have had him in the bottom part of the lineup for the most part. I'm seeing a lot of 7s and 8s and a 1-5 against the lefties, but he's going to have his opportunity to play. And again, we need to see something from him. Physically, if you see him play, he looks like Chris Bryant, and he currently produces like Chris Bryant. I don't know I don't know what else to say. I have seen him in AAA and have been extremely impressed with what I have seen at times. The last time I had eyes on him, I was totally underwhelmed. But I know you're probably thinking, like, didn't he just say this about Colson Montgomery a couple of weeks ago? Yes. So if this is the for those watching the YouTube, if this is the kiss of death, here, fine. I was underwhelmed by what I saw with Mayo. But there's a reason why he's in the major leagues and why I do podcasts and I'm not a professional scout on things. I'm just saying this is, I'm not excited about this one, but maybe it's because the last couple of times I've seen him live in person, I have been underwhelmed by the quality of contact that I saw.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to how much contact Mayo can make. And the power is legitimate. We know it's there. And of anybody on this list that we're going to talk about today, or at least from the hitter's perspective, there's probably no bigger upside than Kobe Mayo. This is a guy who legitimately could hit 15 home runs or more rest of the season in a 2-month stretch if he can figure out how to make consistent contact in the zone. He's done an okay job of it. It hasn't been great. He's below league average. But we're talking about like 83%, which is, kind of just right below league average at 85. So if he can continue to improve on that at all, he could be a monster. And so I think he is a guy, especially if you're looking for power. Like, I know in like my Tout Wars league, like I need power. I need power bad. And like I said, I just lost Acuna and Churio. Kobe Mayo is going to be on my list today. That's for sure going to be a guy that I target because I desperately need that power. And if you do too, I think Mayo is a guy you should be targeting.
Yeah.
What about his teammate Ryan Mountcastle, who's going to? I don't know if he's back already or if he's going to be back.
I believe he's back like tomorrow.
Okay, so Mountcastle is a kind of proven commodity. He's going to be available on a lot of wires. And of course, we'll probably just slide back into everyday playing time in Baltimore. Where you at on Ryan Mountcastle?
So would assume he slides into everyday playing time at DH, which has currently been manned by Jeremiah Jackson the last 3 days, because Mountcastle is not going to take, Kobe Mayo is playing first base. So Mountcastle is not going there. And Mountcastle, we've seen enough to know that he's not an outfielder. So it should be at DH. In AL Labor, I have Ty France and Ryan Mountcastle, and I have one roster spot. And I can't, so I'm trying to trade one of them for an outfielder. We'll see if anything materializes today. So yeah, Mountcastle will be coming back. Would assume he's been DHing. I don't know what that's going to do for him in the lineup because he probably just stays down at the bottom of the lineup. That's where they've been using DH has been 5 today, 8 and 9 recently. But I don't, other than like leapfrogging Dylan Carlson, I don't know if there's a case to be made for Ryan Mountcastle to hit any higher than 8th in that lineup. So to me, I don't know if he's even mixed league viable unless we're talking about a 15 and you're really trying to cover some injuries.
Yeah, I think he's going to be 15 team mix, and that's about it. Like I said, he's going to be in the bottom of the lineup. We don't know, even if he's going to necessarily play every day. I mean, it's clear that with the trade deadline, the Orioles are looking towards the future, and I don't know if Ryan Mountcastle is part of that future for the Baltimore Orioles. Now,
I don't think he is.
Yeah, he does have one more year of control, but he's also ARB eligible for the first time this year, and so would not be surprising to see them trade him off in the offseason to a team looking for an affordable first base option. And then the Orioles roll with what they got. So I'm not going to be surprised if Mountcastle isn't on his team, and that won't surprise me if they don't really give him full-time playing time and they look at some of the other guys and kind of give them a shot to see if they're going to be part of the future in Baltimore. Leo Piguero, he's going to be getting some playing time in Pittsburgh. Where are you at on Piguero?
But why? I know he just had 4 home runs this week. 3 of them came yesterday in a game at Denver, and he had another one against your Giants. And those 4 home runs, and let's see, we have 31 plate appearances, 4 home runs, and in the minors, he had 5 home runs and almost 300 plate appearances.
Yeah.
This week was fun. I'm sorry that 99.999% of fantasy managers missed it, but no, there's no interest here.
Infield depth. He's a guy you can stream up against lefties because he's mostly just going to play against lefties. But Pittsburgh is thin, and Piguero is on the roster, and I think he's the only backup infielder. So like he could find himself getting in. He got in 4 times the last week, and they only had 2 lefties on the docket. So would not be surprising if Piguero plays a lot. I just don't know that there's enough juice here to really warrant picking him up and then having to deal with not knowing when he's going to start or when he's not. So I'm kind of with you there on Piguero. So next up, we have Alex Freeland, who got called up by the Dodgers. Where are you at on Alex Freeland?
This guy is amazing. Best guy we're going to talk about today. While I'm doing this, Justin, I need you to pull up his player page, and I want you to take a look at very specific part of his player page where it says where he went to college. So that's why he's amazing. But in all seriousness, he went to UCF. This is why I like him. Numbers-wise, he has actually had some good numbers. Problem is, Max Muncy's probably coming back tomorrow. Yeah. And in that case, Alex Freeland's going to Oklahoma City. So I don't know if Alex Freeland has got a roster spot unless I was trying to look at, okay, what do you do? You're not sending away Miguel Rojas. Alex Call is your outfielder. You have Asturi Ruiz. So potentially, because Ruiz is he's just on the roster for speed and not like Freeland's Freeland can run. So potentially he hangs on, but his playing time that he's been enjoying this week for Freeland, where he's started at third base each of the last 4 games, could be coming to a close here tomorrow if Max Muncy is indeed activated off the IL.
All right, well, then let's just move right along to the next guy. Talk about Jacob Marcy, who Paul and Nick could not stop talking about during the trade deadline show. And then Paul brought him up when him and I talked. 2 start pitchers yesterday. Not a pitcher. Jacob Marcy is, I believe, an outfielder in Miami. But Paul's really excited. Are you really excited?
I would say so is Jeff. Like Jeff put something on Blue Sky Zimmerman that basically is like, if you're in one of those leagues where like first come, first serve, go do this right now. And that got my attention because Jeff is mostly pessimistic about that kind of stuff. And when Jeff makes that comment, I mentioned earlier that in the home league, I went 0 for 7 trying to replace Jackson Churio. I thought I had put what I thought was an aggressive bid down on Jacob Marcy. Didn't win it. Somebody else was higher on that. So again, this comes down to the playing time. This comes down to a guy that runs a lot, 47 steals in AAA. Yeah. He had 14 home runs. So he has a license to run. And if you are in a league where you're looking stolen bases is tight, you're looking for somebody who can give you another 10 to 12 the rest of the way, this could be that guy for you. I would say kind of overlook everything else. Marlon's going to let him play. And if you're trying to make a steals push, and this is available to you. He had 51 steals last year. He has 47. He's been caught his only attempt so far that he's had in his 2 games. So I would say he has a license to run, and this is where I would be speccing for stolen bases in even a 12-team format. Hopefully you have enough to insulate you from the rest of the potential statistical damage because there's not a lot of batting average upside. Power, this is a speed dart for me, but one that he could probably lead the NL. Probably be in the top 5 of stolen bases in the NL the rest of the way.
Yeah,
if everything breaks right.
There is not much more to this profile. It's probably a league average hit tool once he kind of matures. I don't know if it's quite a league average hit tool right now. So you're talking like maybe like a 230, 240 batting average. a handful of home runs. There is a little bit of pop, but it's not much pop. It's definitely below league average. You're playing on the Marlins, which, it's a better team than we expected it to be, but it's not a great team offensively around him. But he can steal bases. Stole 47 bases in AAA this year. Stole 51 between AA and AAA last year. This dude has speed, and he can walk. Talking about 16% walk rate in AAA this year, and really, above 15% in virtually every single landing spot in the minor leagues throughout his minor league time. So, like, if you're in an on-base percentage league and you're in need of speed, or if you're just needing speed in general, Marcy should be the top of your list this week in terms of pickups, but don't expect much more than just the speed at this point. And on a base percentage, he definitely walks. So, Blake Perkins, he has been playing a fair amount and has been hot as of late. Any interest there?
Yeah, so he's currently playing center while Churio can't, and he's made the most. He had a multi-homer game the other day, and we saw what Perkins could do last year when he came up, and it really wasn't that much. But now that he's got the opportunity, we knew he could run, and that was kind of it. Looking back, 240 batting average, strikeouts were there, and now he has the opportunity to play center field. Let's assume for the month of August. And we were talking earlier on this show. They don't have any other options to really do anything. If anybody's coming back from injury, but this is because it's center field, they don't really have another option that they could go down to the minors and be like, all right, come up. Maybe Daz Cameron, but no, that's not started. So this is Blake Perkins' job. So treat him as a regular for the month of August and see if you can get some of those steals. And kind of like Jacob Marcy, everything else would be gravy because there is some risk in the profile, but we know he can run. He did it last year, and he has the opportunity to do it. Those 2 home runs were nice the other day, but he may have like 3 the rest of the month.
Yeah, this is a pure stolen base play. And I think I would prefer Marcy here just because I think Marcy's floor in terms of batting average is better than Blake Perkins. Perkins, I know he's got a 297 batting average entering Sunday, but he's got a 35% strike rate. The contact skills are pretty terrible so far this year, 78% zone contact. So I'm not overly enthused by the rest of the profile other than speed. He's going to play every day. He's going to get speed. This is a good team, but he's probably going to hit towards the bottom of this lineup more days than not. Though he did hit 6th yesterday, so that's a little interesting. But I think more often than not, he's going to hit 7th, 8th, 9th, and you just got to hope he can steal some bases down there. So that's where we're at with Blake Perkins. Let's talk about a catcher trade. Freddie Fermin got traded to the Padres, where he's going to play every day. We've been kind of waiting for Fermin to have an opportunity. He's kind of was stuck behind Sal Perez in Kansas City, but there's a lot of talent in this bat, and now he's going to get a chance to play regularly. Where are you at on Freddie Fermin?
I love this dude, honestly, and he didn't even go to UCF. I just love this dude, and I wish the Rays would have made this deal. Like, they perpetually have struggled for catching forever, and yeah, they got Fiducia from the Dodgers, but he has his throwing problems, just like Nick Fortes does. And it's like you look at Fermin, and that's what he does extremely well. And he hits for average because he just has this nice line drive stroke. I don't think he'll ever hit 10 home runs in a season. But this is a catcher who has a nice gap-to-gap line drive batting stroke that is not going to hurt you in batting average. And the benefit, he's also going to benefit those Padres pitchers. I mean, they've already thrown 15 shutouts this year. They've had their pitching's good, but he's going to benefit that pitching staff because Elias Diaz, that's not his strength. Martin Maldonado, yeah, he can throw, but everything else is pretty terrible. So you can see a little bit of bump in your Padres pitchers along with this. And so I love that you have him, that you have Fermin on the rundown here, because I think this was a fantastic ad by the Padres. It definitely upgrades their catching situation. It increases Fermin's fantasy profile because he no longer has to be yo-yoed in, but like he's back there and he's doing every day. And I feel the underrated thing of this, how he's going to benefit that pitching staff.
Yeah. I mean, he is a guy who makes a lot of good in zone contact. He's a guy I've really liked kind of as a last, ditch, effort guy in 15-team 2 catcher leagues. I think this is going to propel him towards like, hey, he could be a top 20 catcher rest of the way. Now, that doesn't really mean much in a one catcher league, but in your two catcher leagues as your C2, if you've been kind of just rotating guys in and out and not landed on anybody, I think Fermin is going to be playing quite a bit in San Diego. And I think there's batting average upside. I disagree with you. I think he will hit 10 home runs in a season at some point. He hit 9 in 2023 with only 235 plate appearances. There's not prodigious power. I think getting out of Kansas City and getting to play full time, I think he's going to end up being like a 13, 14 homer guy next year. So this is a guy that I'm definitely going to be very interested in as a C2 next season, but I'm also interested in him as a C2 this year. Not a lot of starting pitchers to discuss, but there is Carson Wisenhunt, who is a prospect for the Giants that was just called up. Are you interested in him at all? He has, some prospect pedigree.
So, and one of the things, and I haven't read into him. So, but one of the things that stood out to me in looking over something. So last year in AAA, he pitched 104 2/3, and he had his strikeout rate in AAA last year was 28.4%. And this year in AAA, his strikeout rate has come down to 21%. So he's lost some of his whiff ability, but he's also cut his walk rate in half. And we know about the walk rate with this ABS in the strike zone in AAA, but he's cut his walk rate from 11.1 to 6.8. So there's some intrigue there. So if he's giving up strikeouts to have more command, cool. But that's a pretty big drop in strikeouts. So that was a little eye-catching in that regard. But to me, he's like end of rotation type of situation. And we talked at the beginning of this show, your team's out of it, my team's out of it. And unless you're trying to cover an injury, I don't know if Wisenhunt's going to put you in good position to get out there. And he started, it took a no decision yesterday, 5 innings, 4 runs, 3 strikeouts, and 2 walks and 1 home run and a partridge in a pear tree. So like he had that type of outing situation, but I'm not as interested in him as I am the next guy we're going to talk about.
Yeah. There are a lot of people who really like Wisenhunt. He has just an elite changeup, but he doesn't really have much else to go with that changeup. And he's a lefty that's got a great changeup, but like the rest of the profile is really, really boring. And like you said, the strikeouts have really disappeared. We're talking about a guy who's been 30% strikeout rate all throughout the minor leagues, dropped to 21% this year in the minors. I just don't know there's a lot of upside here. The Giants aren't going to win a lot of games. Yes, he will be protected by that park, but I think the Giants are definitely kind of on downtrend right now, moving forward rest of the way. And I don't know that Wisenhunt's going to be that interesting outside of like a deep streamer, in a 15-team league or NL only. So for me, I'm not as interested in Wisenhunt, but I know there are people out in the industry who've been a big fan of his as a prospect, and he's still on the top 100 for Fangraphs. So this is a top 100 prospect coming up, and he already made his first start, didn't fare very well. I think he's pitching today against the Mets, so we'll kind of see how he does there and see if he even holds on to his rotation spot after that.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup.
Yep. The guy you are interested in is Spencer Arrighetti, who is going to be returning here. Why are you so interested in a guy who walks the yard?
Because he's on the Astros, and he's in the situation. If I'm going to add a starter, I'm looking for wins. The Astros are going to get that. Arrighetti is one of 8 pitchers that the Astros currently have on the IL, along with Blanco, France, Garcia, Javier, McCullers Jr., Walters, and Wisniewski. All of these guys, and 4 of those have Tommy John surgery. So Arrighetti obviously has been out since that fractured thumb in batting practice when he got hit by something for long ago. But for me, it's like he's going to join the rotation. He's going to join an offense that's been putting up runs, and that it's just, Pena's back in the lineup today. So he's back after that Saturday scare. Yordan Alvarez, fingers crossed, is supposed to be back here in the next 2 weeks. They made their trade they added Carlos Correa. They added Jesus Sanchez. So the offense should have enough to get some stuff done. My hope is that Arrighetti can come back and get some wins. I did trade him in AL labor because I had a chance to get Zevy Matthews in a deal, and it's like I'm trying to make a push up in the standings as far as I can go, even though I'm not contending there. But I was holding on to Arrighetti all year. I was excited about him coming into the season, and we will see where things go from here. But he's in a good position because he's on a team that's contending, that still has some games against. Look at the Astros' strength of schedule, and they have one of the easier strengths of schedules. They have the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh easiest schedule with 51 games remaining. They still have some a series against the Rockies, a series against Atlanta, a series against Athletics, 2 series against Baltimore, 2 series against the Angels, and a series against the Marlins. That's pretty nice.
Yeah. He is going to, or he's tentatively scheduled, Arrighetti is, to debut against the Marlins on Tuesday. I don't think I'm using him there. I'm picking him up in leagues, especially where I need strikeouts. Arrighetti has been a big strikeout guy over the course of his career, but he only went 4 to 3rd in his last start. It didn't even really go well. And the Marlins have been hitting the ball really, really well recently. So I think I'm picking him up, and I'm hoping to stream him in a 2-starter if everything goes well. In his first start, he'll have a 2-start the following week, I believe, with Boston and somebody else. So I think that is the scenario. My whole thing is this: if you are in any danger of losing points in WHIP, you may want to just steer clear of Arrighetti. Arrighetti has been a WHIP just nightmare over the course of his time in the major leagues. And even in his rehab stints, his WHIP's been 145. So I'd be very, very cautious with Arrighetti if your ratios are in any sort of peril here.
Fair enough.
All right. We have 74 million closing situations to cover post-trade deadline. We already covered a few of them. So let's just jump right in. Talk about the Giants closing situation first. Randy Rodriguez got the first save opportunity, got in trouble, but was able to get out of it and secure his first save. Is Randy Rodriguez the guy in San Francisco?
I believe he is. And until he shows otherwise, I believe he is. They could always go back to Ryan Walker if they wanted to try, who ended up getting the win yesterday. But to me, this is Rodriguez's job. I know a little bit of a hiccup, but heading into it, if they were going to do something, Rodriguez seemed well positioned to be the replacement. When we talked about, last time you and I were on, we talked about trying to get ahead of buying closers, and this was one of the guys that was likely on everybody's high target list for FAAB last weekend, so you didn't have to pay extra for him this weekend.
Yeah, if he's available, you should be going and getting him. I think he's probably the top option. Now, I like that you mentioned Ryan Walker, because Walker did a great job as a closer last year, came into the year as a closer this year, obviously lost the job to Camilo Duvall because he had been so shaky. But at the end of the day, like this, Walker is a guy with closing experience. We know how much teams like guys with closing experience. I think they are going to go with Randy Rodriguez, at least for right now. But if there's any more hiccups, don't be surprised if they go to Ryan Walker, who has been established as a previous dude. Let's move over to Pittsburgh situation where Dennis Santana is pretty much the clear cut and dry guy, right?
Yeah, I'm surprised that he's still on the team, to be honest with you.
I am too.
I thought he was going to go. Like, I would say one of the specs that I did last weekend was I picked up Isaac Madsen, and expecting both David Bednar and Dennis Santana to be dealt, and Santana's still there, so sure, it's going to be his. I know that he blew up and gave up that home run to Brenton Doyle. He had some issues in Colorado, but who doesn't? And yeah, I'm not concerned about it. He's going to he'll get his saves, and let's say he probably gets 8 the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think of all the guys we're going to talk about after this, Santana is safer. He is locked into that role. I do not expect him to lose that job unless he just truly falls apart. But I'm not expecting that from Dennis Santana at all. I think he is the Pirates closer rest away. So he's going to be a priority pickup. Now we get into some of the more difficult situations to kind of figure out. Some are going to be easier than others. Let's start with the Nationals situation. You got any clue on who you think might be the closer there?
When I looked at it, when I took a look at it, when I wrote my article this week, Cole Henry was the guy that really was the one I wanted to try. It's like Jose Ferrer, they know what they've had at him. Not that the Nationals are ever in contention for a game, but I know that Henry has had his walks. But it's really one of these things where we've never had to question this before because Kyle Finnegan has had 99.4% of the saves for this club over the last 2 years. So anybody's speculation will be the right one here because we've never had to worry about this. I believe that Finnegan has saved all but 2 games for this organization over the past 2 years. So when I looked at it, Henry was the guy whose stuff overall, that's the one that stood out to me. And Henry would be the guy that I would take a chance on. Not that I'm terribly excited about any of them. He's also been the tougher one to hit. When I wrote the article last week, Jose Ferrer had the better strikeout minus walk percentage, but was also 50 points more hittable, like a 265 opponent's batting average versus 216 from Cole Henry, and their stuff plus grades were nearly identical. So Henry was the guy I was going to go that I would go with here, but not excited about either one getting 5 saves the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think that's the problem is I don't even know if they're going to go with a guy. Like, I think this could be easily a situation where they, go with matchups, where they go with the hot hand. Ferrer's the guy that I think is likely to get the majority of it, and that's why I put him on the rundown. I've added Henry as well. But I think this could be like a shared job between the two, and the Nationals aren't going to win enough games over the course of the next 2 months. Right now they've already run 44 games so far at this point in the season. How many more games are they really going to win over the last, 7-8 weeks of the season? I don't know that this is a situation that I'm diving headfirst into outside of NL only leagues. Maybe I throw $1 or something like that on Ferrer or a couple bucks on Ferrer and see if I, can get lucky. But at the end of the day, I just don't know if there's enough juice to squeeze in this situation in Washington.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right. What about the situation in Minnesota where the problem with the juice to squeeze there is there's no fruit left? They traded everybody away, especially from their bullpen. Like this, and maybe we should have seen it coming because they made some minor moves and stuff. Before the trade deadline to pick up some relievers from places. They picked up Noah Davis from the Dodgers. But there's no one left. They got Cole Sands, they've got Justin Topa, Michael Tonkin, Cody Funderburk. I don't even know half of these people.
Hey, Erasmo Ramirez is back in the league.
That's crazy to me. I know Paul doesn't always listen to the Sunday episode, so maybe on Monday or Tuesday, whenever we meet up, we'll play reliever or Minnesota Twins reliever or congressman, because this is ridiculous. Do you care? Do you care who is getting the saves in Minnesota?
Yeah, it's got to be Cole Sands. I mean, I only care because I'm curious to see what happens next year. I mean, this is kind of this has mostly been an organization that likes to work from within in this role. So if Cole Sands can do well, this parlays into next year. And if you're in a keeper league, you can get Cole Sands at a decent price because everybody's like, oh, the Twins suck, who cares? But you can get Cole Sands at a decent price. Now you got him for next year at a decent price too. So Cole Sands is easily the favorite here. I just don't know how much that's going to bring, but he's worth bidding on if you're looking for saves.
I mean, it still has the constructs of a somewhat decent team if and when they actually, get Byron Buxton back into this lineup.
And Luke Keeschel.
Yeah, this team could still win some games. They're not going to be terrible. They're just not going to be good. And I think I put Sands above some of the other names we're going to talk about. So, because I agree, I think he is probably one of the more locked in guys in this situation. I just don't see that they're going to move to a Topa or a Tonkin here. But they obviously could go with a committee, right? Before Duran really established himself as the closer, and when he was still showing elite stuff, they moved him around. They put him in different spots, and it would not be surprising to me if Rocco Baldelli just says, I'm going to use the guy I think is best suited for each spot.
Well, let's be real. Rocco Baldelli is not going to be making this decision next year, so he might as well do what he can now.
Yeah, exactly. So, All right. Why don't we move over to the Cardinals situation? And they've got Jojo Romero, who seems to be the most likely guy of this bullpen group. Are you a Jojo Romero believer?
So the only thing with Romero right now, he's the only lefty in that pen.
Yeah.
So, but who cares? I mean, this is something that the managers will say they care about. But what are the Cardinals doing? It's like when I tried to look at something, Andre Granillo is somebody that I had picked up on the cheap last weekend for $1, looking for because a friend is like, hey, I read something they were looking at him if they move Helsley, and that Maton would have been the guy here. And this would have been, we talked about Maton earlier. I liked Maton if he was going to stay here, but he didn't because at the time I wrote the article up, it was the Cardinals were only 3.5 back, so I couldn't tell if they were going to sell everything or just sell one piece. They sold more than that, so this pen could kind of be wide open. But the fact that Romero is the only lefty could cost them some save chances because they may get into a situation be like, all right, we're bringing Romero in now in the 8th, and maybe he's got to do a little bit of heavy lifting, and he can't finish. He can't come back for the 9th, and so it's going to cost him. There's no primary closer here. I would say Romero probably gets 60% of the saves the rest of the way.
Okay. Yeah, I think Romero is definitely going to be 50% plus rest of the way. The name I want people to keep an eye on that I have been really, really interested in. I think I've mentioned him on the pod before, but I know I mentioned him right after the Helsley trade in the Discord, and that's Kyle Leahy. He has been absolutely fantastic. Guy with 5 pitches that he can throw. Really good stuff. Does not walk guys. Does not give up home runs. 2.70 ERA so far in 60 innings. I think he is the 1B here, right? If Romero is the 1A, and I do believe he is the 1A, Leahy's the 1B. And so these situations where, hey, they need a lefty in the 8th and they bring in Romero, I think Leahy's going to be the guy. So in your deeper leagues, if you're looking for a spec option, Leahy's the guy that I'm looking at after Romero.
Yeah, so good name to think about.
Let's move to the athletic situation. I had put down Jack Perkins, but he's starting today, so that's not going to be the case. Is it Sean Newcomb? Is it Michael Kelly? Do we care?
I don't think we care here at all. I don't know what they're going to do in this situation. It could be Newcomb because he's not the only lefty. He's also the veteran. But I don't see. I mean, Michael Kelly has had some stuff, and I was trying to figure this one out because, as you said, with Perkins would have been the name, but when they put the news I saw last night, hey, Perkins is going to the rotation. I would say that's kind of interesting for him because JT Ginn has been a pretty nice move to the rotation for the Athletics as well, and so now they're going to move Perkins up there as they go with this 5. So I don't know if we should care about this one. I don't know if anybody in this situation gets 5 saves the rest of the way. This just screams platoon situation.
Yeah,
absolutely screams it.
Then let's just move on and talk about the Orioles closer situation, which to me is. It seems like Junior Cano should be the guy, right? He's the guy with experience. I don't know if he is. I think this is another one of these situations that could just be split around. Where are you at on the Baltimore situation here?
Kind of where it played out yesterday. When I have watched this team pitch, the 2 guys that stand out to me stuff-wise are the lefties, Grant Wolfram and Keegan Aiken. And I know Wolfram can be all over the place. He's the guy that ended up, gave up the grand slam. I forgot a couple of weeks ago he's had his problems, but there are times when I'm watching that guy pitch, I'm like, how's anybody hit this guy? But Keegan Aiken, to me, has been the most consistent reliever in that pen outside of Bautista. And Aiken deserves that shot. And so I would like to see him get it. He got the save yesterday. He had to do some heavy lifting to get that save. But it was his save. And I would like to see him get that shot and see where they go, if as he holds on to this job and Bautista makes it back eventually. But Aiken certainly earned the right to do this role.
I mean, I tend to agree with you. The only problem is I don't know that he's going to. I think they're going to split it between, the guys that we've already mentioned in Cano and Wolfram, and then like Corbin Martin, I think, and Keegan Aiken. Like, I think this is going to be just split between all these guys. And I don't know how long Bautista is going to be out for, but if we're talking maybe the month of August, like how many saves can you really split between these guys on a team that isn't winning a lot of games? Yeah. So like
4.
I don't know that it's worth our time to really care much about who's closing in Baltimore rest of the way. Next on the docket is the Dodgers closer situation. This isn't a trade situation. This is Tanner Scott getting hurt. Blake Trinan seems to be the most logical guy for them. Is Blake Trinan the dude in Los Angeles until Tanner Scott comes back?
You would assume he is, but I love that they got Brock Stewart. Yeah. I love that the Dodgers acquired Brock Stewart. I have been a fan of that stuff. They know him. He's been in the organization. We know Brock Stewart can miss some bats. And I could see a situation where Trinan's pitching a tie game in the 8th and Stewart comes in to clean up to do the 9th. So I would say, yes, Trinan should be the guy. But if I'm trying to split, if I've got like $5 left, I'm okay with somebody putting Brock Stewart in their waterfall.
What about Alex Vesia? Because Vesia got the last save. He is the lefty, so I think he's going to factor in. I don't think there is a guy. Like I think until Tanner Scott comes back and shows that he's good, I think they're going to switch this around.
You're just going to write off that 40-pitch 3-inning save by Justin Robleski the other day? Come on, man. He shut out my Rays after Kershaw did the work. But yeah, Robleski had a 40-pitch save.
All right. Well, I'm just going to skip over that one. We'll get to the last situation, which is the Marlins situation. Not another trade situation, but as you pointed out on a rundown, Kevin Fauché has gotten 3 of the past 4 saves. Do you think they're going to stick with him, or are they going to move to, back to Henriquez or Bender or like whoever? I don't even know who's in the Miami pen at this point.
You just named Enriquez, Bender, Lake Bacher had some run, but he blew a save the other day. But Fauché has got 3 of the last 4, and unless they could sneak him through a waiver wire type of a deal, I would say Fauché is getting these saves the rest of the way. And the Marlins tend to play in some close games. Honestly, of all of these relievers that we've talked about, he may be the most appealing. I would say between him and Cole Sands, yeah, they may have the most saves of all of these guys that we just broke down. I think as if things stand where they are now, they are best positioned to have the most saves the rest of the way.
Yep. I think you probably could be right there. All right. That is going to wrap us up. Made it through all of those moves and all of those injuries. Lot to deal with this week in FAAB. Hopefully everybody enjoys the rest of their weekend. Jason, why don't you remind everybody where you can reach social media, plug anything you got going on?
So find Collette Calls. That RotoWire most recent article was on dry spells, looking at some guys, and it actually worked out rather well. It's like I wrote about William Contreras, and his lack of home runs. Hits a bunch of home runs this week. Wrote about somebody else. They stole some bases. So I'm taking requests via Venmo. If you want me to give the blessing to your player and write about him and motivate him, kind of like the Colson Montgomery thing, warming Bernabell. As I said, I don't know what everybody's seeing here with that. So have that going on. And then I wish I could have been more active in the trade deadline Thursday, as everybody else was, some of our friends, but busy day at work. And then I had some commitment that I had made to take my daughter to a theater that reopened here in Charlotte, and saw the original Top Gun in a building that is over 100 years old. So that was fun. And that's why you didn't see much of me around the trade deadline. But I am very much active on Blue Sky if you want to come in there and hang out.
That's really cool. You got to do that. I about a month ago or so, I think it was, took my eldest to go see Dogma in theaters for their 25th anniversary. And
where'd you go to see that?
It was just the local theater. They were doing it all around because the Weinstein Company had the rights to Dogma and never put it on streaming, so it hadn't been available anywhere outside if you could find like a DVD copy. But Kevin Smith got the rights back last year, and so for the 25th, though I think last year was actually the 25th anniversary, but they put it back in theaters just for a weekend. Back I think in late June, early July, something like that. And so me and my kid, I was like, yeah, this is a movie you need to go see. It's a very, very funny movie, but also kind of pertinent to a little bit of today's discussions and stuff. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun to go and see that old movie in theaters as well. You can reach me on social media at Justin Mason Fantasy, Justin Mason FWFB. Then you can catch me over on Fangraphs, Fantasy Pros for my written content, and here in the Friends of Fantasy Benefits podcast for my audio content. That will wrap us up for this episode. For Jason and myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic baseball season.
See you guys.